You're not going to believe what happened to me last weekend. So picture this. I wake up early Saturday morning, ready to enjoy a quiet day on my land, my own property that I've owned and maintained for years. I pour my coffee, step outside, and that's when I hear it. Loud music, crowds of people, food trucks, even a bounce house. At first, I think I'm dreaming. But no, someone Karan had actually organized a full-blown festival on my land without my permission. We're talking banners, stages, parking, the whole deal. And get this, she had the nerve to name it after herself. I didn't know whether to laugh or explode. How do you even respond to someone throwing a public event on private property like it's just ... I tried to stay calm and figure out what was going on, but when I saw her on stage, smiling like she owned the place, something inside me snapped. She waved like some kind of self-declared mayor, ignoring the fact that every step she took was on land she didn't have rights to. I asked around and learned. She'd told vendors and guests that she worked out a deal with the owner. Yeah, that would be me. Except I never got a call, text, or even a scribbled note. So you better believe I marched right up to that stage, through the crowd, straight into the spotlight, and that's when everything changed. What happened next? Let's just say it wasn't the reaction she expected. I wasn't just going to crash her little party, was going to crash it legally. You'll want to hear how this unfolded because things got real messy real fast. And trust me, the lawsuit was just the beginning. Stick around, this story's only getting started, so I'm standing there, in front of this stage, staring up at Karen, who's got this fake smile plastered across her face, acting like she didn't just hijack my land for her Karen Fest, or whatever she called it. People in the crowd started noticing me, whispering, looking confused. A few of them even backed away when they saw the look on my face. But Karen, she just grabbed the mic and kept going like I was invisible. Now here's where things get even weirder. I spotted a security guy by the stage, clearly hired by Karen, and when I asked who gave them permission to be on this land, he shrugged and said, "Karen said she owns it now. Owns it now." That's when the real confusion set in. Because unless I signed over my deed in my sleep, this was still my property. I stepped around the stage, tables of cupcakes with Karen's celebration written on them, and right over to one of the vendors. I asked him how this whole thing got organized. He told me Karen showed them a printed event permit and claimed this land was hers through some temporary transfer. I asked to see that permit. It was a poorly edited document, like she'd downloaded a sample off Google and slapped her name on it. No signatures, no real contact info, just a bold heading that said permission granted. That's when I realized this wasn't just Karen being bold. This was planned. She knew exactly what she was doing. She'd sent invites, booked vendors, printed signs, and even coordinated parking, all on land she had zero legal right to. And the worst part? Some of the guests were people from the community who actually believed she owned it now. I knew I couldn't let this slide. But before I could say a word, she spotted me walking toward the mic and everything stopped. Karen's smile vanished the moment she saw me reach for the mic. She tried to step in front of me, but by then, the crowd had already quieted down, sensing something was off. I looked straight at her and asked, loud and clear, "Who gave you permission to throw a festival on my land?" The silence that followed was thick. You could hear the bounce house deflating in the distance. Karen fumbled for words, muttering something about a community project and how she was promised access. But the shakiness in her voice said it all. She hadn't expected to be called out in front of everyone. What made it worse was that a few people in the audience actually started defending her. She said it was donated. One woman shouted. Another added, "She told us the old owner moved away." That hit me hard. Because not only was Karen using my land without permission, now she was spreading lies to cover her tracks. And somehow, She'd convinced half the neighborhood that she was doing this for a good cause, like this festival was some kind of charity event, not a self-promoting circus with her name on every balloon. Meanwhile, I noticed someone filming. Everything on their phone, probably planning to post it online, and I didn't mind. In fact, I wanted it documented, because this wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. Karen had crossed a line. This was about property rights, personal boundaries, and the fact that someone thought they could bulldoze over the truth with charm and a loudspeaker. But then a man stepped out from behind the stage, holding a clipboard and wearing an official shirt he claimed to be with the county. Said he was there to check the noise permit. That's when things took another turn, because even he seemed confused about who actually owned the land. And just like that, the mystery deepened. I turned to the man from the county and asked straight up, "Do you have the permit with my name on it? 'Cause I sure didn't sign anything." He looked down at his clipboard, flipped a few pages, then hesitated. That pause said everything. Karen quickly jumped in, trying to cover, saying she filed it under a community development clause and that I must have missed the notification. I could feel my jaw clench. There was no notification, no request, no paperwork. Just a bold attempt to take over what didn't belong to her. The crowd started shifting, murmuring, some pulling out their phones. A few of the vendors packed up early, sensing trouble. But Karen still wouldn't back down. She waved her hands like she was some kind of public figure and yelled, "This event is for the people, not just one person's ego." That hit me sideways. She was painting me as the villain on my own land while standing on a stage she built on lies. I looked round and spotted my property marker, still in place, still with my name. I walked over, pointed right at it, and said, "This is my land. It always has been." Then I pulled out the copy of my property deed I brought from the house, just in case. I held it up for the crowd and the county guide to see. His eyes widened, and he stepped back like he wanted no part of what was about to go down, but Karen wasn't done. She doubled down, yelling something about land reclamation rights and how I abandoned the area, which couldn't have been further from the truth. She kept talking over me, pacing the stage, her voice rising with every word. It was like she knew she was losing control, then the more she lost it, the louder she got. And then, just when I thought the chaos had peaked, a police cruiser pulled up to the edge of the property. Lights flashing, sirens off, but they were here. And everyone froze. The moment that police cruiser pulled up, the energy on the property completely shifted. People stopped talking. Music cut off. Even the kids by the bounce house stood still. Karen stiffened on stage, gripping the mic like it was her last line of defense. Two officers stepped out, calm but clearly alert, scanning the scene as they walked toward the crowd. One of them asked, "Who's the property owner here?" Before I could even raise my hand, Karen blurted out, "I am. I organized this festival." Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through it, waving toward the crowd like she had backup. The officer paused and looked at her, then at me. I stayed quiet for a second, letting her finish whatever act she thought would work. Then I stepped forward, raised the property deed, and said, "I'm the legal owner. My name's on the documents. She's been trespassing." The officer took the papers and read over them, while the other quietly asked Karen to step down from the stage. But here's where it took a turn I didn't see coming. As one of the cops was reviewing the deed, a man from the back of the crowd shouted, "That's not the only land she used." Heads turned. He walked forward, a vendor with grease-stained hands and a confused look on his face. "She told me to set up my booth across the creek too," he said. "Said the land on the other side was all hers now." My stomach dropped. Across the creek, that was the back portion of my land, dung developed, but still mine. And worse, that Part had fragile fencing around a protected pond area I'd been restoring for over a year. The officer looked up, clearly more concerned now. "Did you give anyone access to that area?" he asked. I shook my head. "Absolutely not." That's when one of the officers got a call on his radio and walked back to the cruiser. Moments later, he returned and said, "We've got a bigger issue. You're going to want to see what we just found near that pond." I followed the officer across the field, my boots crunching through dried grass as we headed toward the creek. A few of the curious guests trailed behind, phones still recording, whispering to each other. As we got closer, I could already tell something was wrong. The fence that had been put up to protect the pond restoration area completely flattened. Trash everywhere. Plastic cups floating in the water. And at the center of it all, it's a massive portable generator humming. Leaking oil hooked up to a cluster of string lights and sound equipment that stretched from the pond area all the way. Back to the main festival grounds, the officer crouched beside the generator, muttered something under his breath, then turned to me. "This thing wasn't permitted, and this setup, it's sitting on a protected area. You said you reported this site for environmental work?" I nodded. "It's part of a conservation program. I submitted everything. Got approval last year." He stood, face hardening. "This isn't just trespassing anymore. This could be environmental damage. That pond's part of a registered restoration zone. Whoever brought this in might be looking at federal fines." Karen must have followed us because I heard her voice behind me much quieter now. "I didn't know about that pond. I thought it was just open land," she said, almost pleading. But it was too late. Between the fake permits, the lies about ownership, and now a potential environmental violation, the officers had heard enough. One officer stepped aside to radio 4 additional units. The other began taking statements from witnesses, vendors, even guests. Karen stood frozen, her whole festival unraveling right in front of her. But just when I thought it was over, the officer with the radio turned to me and asked, "Did you give Karen access to your mailbox recently?" I blinked. "Oh, why?" He held up a letter half torn, dirty, but with my name on it. "This was found in her car. Opened. Looks like a property tax notice." My stomach sank. This wasn't just trespassing or a wild festival gone wrong. Karen had been digging deeper into my personal affairs than I ever imagined. Turns out Karen had been watching my property for months. She saw the conservation signs, noticed I didn't live full-time on the land, and somehow got her hands on a mail key I didn't even realize was missing. That torn tax notice. She was probably planning to use it to create some bogus claim, maybe even fake a lien or make it look like the land was abandoned. The officers collected everything and took her in for questioning. Vendors packed up fast. After that, most of them clearly shocked. A few came up to me and apologized, saying they were misled and had no idea she didn't actually own the place. By the next week, I'd spoken with a lawyer, filed an official lawsuit for trespassing, property damage, and mail tampering. The county also launched an investigation into the environmental damage to the pond. And as for the festival, let's just say Karen Fest ended with more legal paperwork than party photos. Most of the footage people took ended up online, and the comments spoke for themselves. Folks were outraged, but many were also grateful I stood my ground. I've since installed new cameras, replaced the damaged fencing, and had all my locks changed. I even got a few offers from local environmental groups offering to help restore the pond area again. The whole thing made me realize how important it is to protect what's yours, no matter how bold or smooth someone may act. So yeah, Karen threw a festival on my land. But I crashed her stage, filed a lawsuit, and reminded her and everyone else watching that private property is not a suggestion. It's a right. And when someone tries to steal that, you don't just walk away. You show up, stand tall, and take it back.